What's up there, YouTube? It's Gores here, giving you guys a deck profile for my 60 card Paleo Frog deck. I just want to give you guys a quick shout out. Thank you for letting the channel hit 200 subscribers. I really enjoy all the support you guys are giving me. I cannot wait to show you guys what I have planned for the future. There is so much more coming, and I'm really excited to share it with you guys. But without further ado, let's just get into the deck profile. So the main reason I wanted to play 60 card Paleo is because back in the day I actually used to play this deck in the TCG, and it was so strong just to be able to mill a bunch of Paleozoics and a bunch of frog monsters and just pop off. So let's get right into this deck profile and show you guys why it's so good. So the first thing we're playing is the absolute Backjack. So Backjack is really strong because you can banish it from your graveyard during your opponent's turn, check the top card of your deck. If it's a normal trap, you can set it and activate it that turn. And then if it's sent to the graveyard, we can look at the top 3 cards from our deck and put them back in any order. So it lets us stack our deck and find the normal trap that we're looking for. We're playing 37 normal traps in this deck, so that's really going to help us just increase the odds of searching for a trap we would enjoy. One other thing I'd like to point out is that you can link this off into Link Karibo and do the stack effect right there. So you can stack with the Backjack off of linking with the Link Karibo. So pretty important right there. Next up for the other level 1 we play for Link Karibo in this deck is Magician's Souls. Magician's Souls is really good in this deck. I was playing Desires. This is actually a recent addition. I've been enjoying it in the playtesting because we're not banishing our swap frogs, which is pretty important to not do that. But it also lets us send our Paleozoic traps and Lost Winds and anything else that we have too much of to draw extra. Like if we happen to open double desires, or sorry, double demise and double grass, this will let us just send those and draw something. So really enjoying this card personally, and it makes Link Karibo, so that's also pretty good. Next up, we're playing 3 of each frog, Dupe Frog, Swap, and Ronin. The reason we're playing 3 Ronin is because we're trying to just increase the odds of getting double Ronin engrave off of the grass, which is just what allows us to pop off so quick and fast against our opponent. So we definitely have to run it. Next up, we have 3 Card Demise. We draw 3. We draw until we have 3 cards in our hand, and we're not playing a lot of monsters or hand traps in the deck. So this will let us just draw 3 most of the time, and anytime it doesn't, like let's say we draw a monster and we've already used our normal summon, we don't really care about our monsters going to the graveyard because the frogs we can just banish for fodder, and the Magician's Souls, if we've already used our normal summon, it's not really doing anything for us anyways. But the Backjack is going to let us stack our deck once again, so we get to stack with the Backjack once more. Next up, we have the 3 copies of That Grass Looks Greener. It's grass, so what grass does is it lets us send, if we have more cards in our deck than our opponent, we send the difference. So if they have 40, we have 60, we send 20. And that is just why this is so insane, because we just send a bunch of Paleozoic cards from our deck to grave and a bunch of frogs, and we get to pop off just like every other deck right now. The only difference is we get rewarded for playing our good trap cards in this deck. So really enjoy this card. It's the whole reason I built the deck. So next up, we have 2 copies of Called by the Grave. This is just to interrupt hand traps. So definitely really enjoy it. Banishing Eldritch is always good. Triple Torrential Tribute. Torrential Tribute is just for when we play against the combo decks. We can recur ourselves from the graveyard super easily. So if we have to resolve Torrential, like let's say they force our Toad Negate, resolving Torrential doesn't really hurt us at all, and we're going to be able to get benefits off of being able to play from our graveyard a little bit more than other decks in the format, so that really helps us a lot. Next up, we're playing Triple Reckless Greed. This is probably one of the best trap cards in the deck. Being able to summon a Paleo whenever we resolve a trap is good, and we can activate Reckless Greed whenever the hell we want. So being able to just draw 2 is really strong, and coupled with Trap Trick, it's actually pretty consistent for us to get all 3 Reckless Greeds off, which just out advantages our opponent. If you guys ever read the book Road to the King, Patrick Hoban talks about this card quite a bit, and yes, that is a little bit of dated information, but Reckless Greed is definitely one of the stronger cards in the format. Not in the format, in this deck. In this deck, this card is phenomenal, and I would not play this deck without it. Next up for the Paleos, we have 3 Canada, 3 Dynamiscus, 3 Morella, and 2 Linguala. All the Paleozoics let us summon themselves back from the graveyard as normal level 2 Aquas, which means we can make totally awesome with them in Miss Starboy. And in addition to that, they're unaffected by monster effects, so they all have some kind of interaction with our opponent or our own deck. So Canada lets us flip an opponent's monster face down, which can just interrupt a lot of combo decks. Dynamiscus lets us banish a face-up card, which just lets us get rid of Eldritch and also helps us get rid of like the one of Kagri. So Triple Morella lets us send Lost Wind from deck to graveyard or Paleos if we're trying to get more Paleo names engraved to summon them back. Paleozoic Lean Koala is actually a card that I was originally playing just because of Desires, but even without Desires, this card has been awesome, especially in the Virtual World matchup, being able to put back their second Virtual card to their graveyard so that they can't use the Chuchi against us has actually been pretty surprisingly relevant. Like, them not being able to pop a card against us is pretty important. Next up, we have 3 copies of Lost Wind. Lost Wind is like probably one of the MVPs of the deck. Just being able to cut an opponent's monster's attack in half and negate its effects is really good. And then milling it off of That Grass is Greener forces our opponent to think more about playing around the Lost Wind, because anytime they summon from the extra deck, we're going to be allowed to reset this. So whether we mill it with That Grass is Greener or send it to the graveyard with Magician's Souls, it's just another interruption that our opponent has to deal with, which can be pretty obnoxious for them. Next up, we have Double Heavy Storm Duster. This was Paleozoic Alanoids at one point, just because it has a similar effect to Heavy Storm Duster. But the Alanoids only destroys one spell or trap, and in a format where spells and traps are so prevalent, I just felt like this card was better, and being able to resolve it on our opponent's end phase is pretty smart. A lot of people are playing Pendulum because it's a cheap budget deck, so being able to pop both their scales is pretty annoying for them, so I definitely recommend running it. Next up, we have 3 copies of Evenly Matched. This is a best of 1 format, so I feel like running this card is just super, super important. It just lets us banish our opponent's field when we need to against Eldritch, and like in the grind games where we're just like being burned out, it definitely helps with that too. We can even search it with Trap Trick, which is just crazy. So really enjoy this card. 10 out of 10, would not run the deck without it. Next up, probably one of the better trap cards in the format, if not the best. Being able to negate a monster effect is important, and it's also a hand trap, and these are our only 2 real going second options since we are playing Card of Demise. So Imperm is just insanely good for us, being able to negate a monster effect. We don't get the luxury of running Max C and Ash Blossom because we're trying to just maximize on our trap card potential. So being able to just play some form of hand trap is pretty good for us, and also it triggers our Paleozoics, so you can't really argue with that. Trap Trick is just in here as a 2 of. We don't really need 3, but being able to banish any normal trap and tutor whatever we're missing, whether we need an Ice Dragon's Prison, an Impermanence, this is just our Swiss utility knife in the deck, and you definitely have to run it. 3 Ice Dragon's Prison. I think this is the best trap card in the format. Next to, it's either this or Imperm. Like, these are probably the 2 best trap cards in the format. Being able to bring back Eldritch and banish it, bring back Kagari, banish it, and a Hayate. It's just so good and has won me so many games. So it's probably one of the best, if not the best, trap card in this format. And finally, since we're running a trap heavy deck and we don't want our opponent to just lightning storm or feather duster away our board, we gotta run the Solemn Judgment. Solemn Judgment is just it's the old school, it's Old Faithful. You gotta run it, it's too good. Pay half, negate anything. Like, too strong. Vanity's Emptiness, because once again it's just a game winner. You flip it and a lot of times your opponent just can't play through Toad and this, so definitely a way too good of a card to be unbanned, but hey, we'll take it. Next up, we have the 1 F-Zero and the 1 Utopic Future, 1 Sky Cavalry, 1 Cat Shark, and 1 copy of Anomalocaris. Anomalocaris is pretty good. Anomalocaris lets us excavate the top card of our deck. And if it's a trap card, we get to add it to our hand. And we get to do that whenever a trap card is sent from the spell or trap card zone to the graveyard. So we can even get like this effect off of resolving Magician Souls, which is pretty crazy. So definitely like this card a lot. And also, it has a quick effect during either player's turn if it has a trap as an Xyz material to detach and destroy a card on the field. So next up, we have the one copy of Opa Bina and the one copy of Crumble Logos. Crumble Logos actually helps us a lot because you'd be surprised how many people are running Zombie Eldritch right now. And this lets us just get through Rivalry of the Warlords if they've Zombie World Rivalried us because it's a rank 2 zombie. In addition to that, it also lets us negate Floodgates. And field spells that just might be pesky. Like if the Numeron OTK deck can't OTK us, which is very common, we can just negate the Numeron network altogether. So it's pretty solid. Definitely enjoy that. One copy of Totally Awesome. If we could play three, we would, but Toad has been proving to be quite good for us, so definitely keeping it. One copy of Downward Magician, because what we can do with this card is we can actually Xyz climb into our Zeus and give Zeus 4 materials in this deck, which comes up quite often for us, especially if we need to break a board. So we definitely enjoy playing the Zeus. And then we have the one copy of Link Karibo, one copy of Miss Starboy, one copy of Nightmare Phoenix, and one copy of Nightmare Unicorn. And finally, we have the one copy of Access Code. This deck makes Access Code Talker like it is a Code Talker deck. Just being able to make it with like our Ronin Toad plays, making Miss Starboy, and then just Link climbing into it with Unicorn, it definitely has caught a lot of people off guard. So Access Code has definitely been one of the MVPs of the extra deck. I'd say the three MVPs of the extra deck are Toad, Zeus, and Access Code. So yeah, I really hope you guys have enjoyed this deck profile. I definitely have enjoyed playing the deck. If you guys have any questions, feel free to go and put them in the comments down below. You guys know I'm pretty quick to answer and respond. So yeah, thanks again, guys, for getting me to 200 subscribers. I really appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you guys so much, and this has been Gores signing off.